Hi there, this is Bernie Borges. I'm CMO of Vengreso, and I am joined here today by Steve Capozzi. And Steve and I are going to have a conversation about the work that we did together. Steve, welcome.
Thank you, Bernie. Thank you very much.
Well, Steve, why don't you introduce yourself? Want to start out by saying that, of course, what we're going to discuss here today is the work we did together at a company that you used to be with. So why don't we begin with that most recent experience?
Okay. Well, this was at a role I had with a global Fortune 500 technology company, a software company. At that time, I was a senior director of channel and alliance marketing globally. I was responsible for 7 different routes to market. By routes to market, I mean the way we categorized our partner programs. There were well over 1,000 partners overall in that program. And I was primarily tasked with a couple primary objectives of that program. It was to grow the program, right? Add more partners to it, because the more partners we had, the better the revenue was. And I just jumped to the second one. It was to grow the revenue, and it was to grow the awareness as well. The awareness and the engagement with partners as well.
And we had a lot of more partners as well.
Exactly. And track more. We had a lot of partners that were dead wood, if you will. They were partners of ours just for the affiliation with that Fortune 500 brand, but they weren't really doing anything. So we wanted to get those partners engaged as well.
Right. So there's a few things that we did together in that engagement. We started out first with a strategy around how you and your team and the channel partner sales organization can become a digitally engaged social army, if you will. So why don't you kind of talk to the social business strategy that we worked with you on?
Yeah, it was important to us to align our sales and our marketing efforts, right? To make sure that we were aligned and going to market in sync. So I went to we had a corporate social department and said, what is our corporate strategy? And they explained something to me, and I said, do you have anything in writing? And they said, well, currently we don't. And I was like, well, if you don't have something in writing, you don't have something, right? So we got together over, I guess it was a couple of days, a long weekend or a long week, around a large conference room table, Bernie, down by where you are in Tampa.
Yep.
And whiteboarded this whole thing out and created a written.
Actually, today I'm by San Francisco.
Yes, I see. Where you were at that time. But we documented and wrote out a corporate partner social business strategy document. That became our quote unquote Bible, and how we were going to operate our social program going forward, and how we were going to scale it, and how it was to be scalable and things of that nature. It was very important because we were always able to reference back to that, and it became our guiding principles, if you will, and how we rolled out the program and ensured success.
Okay, so then we also, an important element of that, Steve, was content and the content strategy. So if you would speak to the role of content in that social business strategy.
Well, geez, and we had multiple routes for content to come into the program, right? We had other people's content, that being content from our partners. We had content from our internal partner program organization, and we had content from the corporate marketing organization as well for the parent company. We wanted to make sure that all that content got merged, if you will, got scrubbed, got cleared by our corporate brand police, if you will, their marketing group, and then went through that clearinghouse and got processed and made available for our channel marketing or our partner marketing organization to utilize and put out.
Can you speak to some of the types of content that we work with you on that me and my team actually co-developed, and in some cases developed with you and your team?
Well, it was pretty widespread. I don't want to forget that starting very much from the website, just the website, the wireframe of the website itself. You helped us redesign that. Along with some of the content.
The website, not the entire website, for the
partner portion of the website, right?
Right.
But some of the content that was on that website. So some of the first things people see when they go in. Then once they're in that website, they're clicking on things, clicking on links and some of the content that shows up behind that, some of the infographics. We produced many infographics about a lot of topics, and they were very widely well received. So the infographics were a big hit. We did case studies, we did success stories, just things that documented the whole process, if you will, to give current and prospective partners a good appreciation and a good feeling before they got involved, what was coming to them, what they were going to get.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you would maybe speak to a few, or at least one success story that we enjoyed together during this particular, because we've worked together in 3 different organizations that you've been a part of, Steve. So in this particular organization, I remember there were a couple, maybe, in limited time here, we share one success story that we had.
Well, one that comes right off the top of my head was another partner. They were an international partner, but they were big in this particular case in the oil and gas industry. And they had a large event. It was a co-branded event that we and they were doing together down in Houston, Texas. And the points of contact that we had at the partner corporation were getting a little bit concerned, because getting a month or so before the event was to be held, it still had very, very weak attendance, very weak registration is what I should say. It didn't have attendance yet. And they were concerned, should we hold it? Should we cancel it? What do we do here? This would be egg on our face. We're both very large Fortune 500 companies. We've got to get people to our event. So we developed together a program around this specific event and aligned with, again, our sales teams, where we, again, I mentioned this was the oil and gas industry. We didn't just start flooding social media with, hey, come to our event. We actually picked out specific targets, people located in the Houston area that worked in the oil and gas industry, and connected with them on LinkedIn and connected with them on Twitter, and started sharing information about this event, what they can expect to get out of it. It's a feed the channel moment where we could say, this is what we're going to bring you. Next thing you know, after a week or two of this, we did get that interest, and people did start signing up for it. And in fact, the registrations filled up, and the event, quote unquote, sold out, even though there wasn't a fee. Sure. But it filled up more than a week prior to the event, made our partner extremely happy. It was a huge success, to the point where they were even FaceTiming with us from the event to show us what a great event this had become.
Well, the channel partner, sales professional at your company, was also very happy as well, because he was the individual that was sweating a little bit, some 4 to 6 weeks out. Now, that actually leads me to the final topic I want to cover with you before we just do a little closing. And that is that in order for us to get to that success story, Steve, we actually had to do some training. And you had a very tenured senior sales organization at this company. And by senior, I mean people who had, in some cases, decades of technology sales experience. Mm-hmm. But they didn't really have an understanding of how to use LinkedIn, Twitter, and basically the social selling methodologies. And so you asked us to put together a training program, and we did. And so I'd like you to maybe speak to that, and maybe speak to the point that I like to make, and that is that going into it, they didn't know what they didn't know. So if I say that, how do you translate that into your world there?
I say that's an understatement. Again, the ladies and gentlemen that we had is the senior sales, alliance sales representatives. Many of them were in their roles or in a similar role in the market before social media was a thing. They may have been in the market since the 80s or 90s. So they were very tenured at what they did, but they didn't understand these other tools that they had at their disposal. So it wasn't just a one-time thing either. I don't want you to get the impression across that it was, oh, we brought you in, Bernie, and you delivered a training, and everybody shook their heads wildly up and down, and then they went off and executed, because that's not how things work.
That one and done doesn't work.
Yeah, that's not how things work. People, invariably they're multitasking during the training. They're giving you the answer you want, and then they forget about it once they log off or they walk out the door. This wasn't that. This was a training, and in fact, it was a series of trainings followed up by regular, what we called coaching sessions,
Right.
where we touched base, depending on the person, depending on their familiarity with social media. We followed up with them on a regular basis. It could have been every couple of weeks. It could have been once a month, whatever the case dictated or warranted, to make sure that they were utilizing the tactics that we had taught them and that they were getting benefits from it. And we were ensuring their success that way. And I tell you, that made all the difference in the world. A training class without follow-up is simply an event, whereas a training class with the follow-up coaching becomes a life experience, right? And it really becomes, it changes attitudes. It changes, how people do things. And that's what we did. We got these senior salespeople to accept and adopt social media. And that was the key thing. They became, and once they started doing, they were like, oh man, I didn't realize this was that easy. It really was. Yeah.
It was behavior change.
We changed their behavior. That's exactly it. And made them realize that for a little bit of your time, and I truly mean a little bit of effort, they got tremendous results out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the ROI was fantastic. They all talk ROI. They understand revenue.
Yeah. All right. So just to close things out, Steve, we've talked about how we work with you in developing the social business strategy. Mm-hmm. We work with you on developing various pieces of content that went into the social strategy. We work with you and your team to provide training and coaching on social engagement to drive revenue. So anybody who's watching this that might be considering working with Vengreso, what's a closing thought that you'd like to leave them with?
Well, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. One of our big goals was to align our marketing efforts and our sales efforts, right? Get everybody to have some skin in the game so that we're all working collaboratively. That results in much better success and much less finger pointing. Okay. If I can't imagine a company that wouldn't desire that, right? That wouldn't desire greater revenues, that wouldn't desire greater leads. We engaged in this program, and one of the other areas of content I forgot to mention was podcasting, right? We worked together to create a whole podcast series where we interviewed our partners, brought them in and let them speak to their business. Right. The amount of C-levels that stood in line and waited to be interviewed for this. Yeah. There's a saying, you got to feed the channel, right? Nobody wants to do something unless they're going to get something back for it. Well, we promoted our partners, and by promoting our partners, they went to market with us together, right? There was something cohesive about it. So if you're looking from a channel perspective, especially, but if you're looking to align your sales and marketing roles, Vengreso is definitely something I would recommend. All right. I don't know. I don't want to give you a blatant plug, but as you've mentioned, Bernie, I've used you in 3 different capacities, 3 different roles. Repeat business is a great reference in and of itself.
Well, we all know that relationships are very important in business. And of course, when results happen and people have great relationships, then they're long-term, long-standing relationships. So Steve, it's been an honor to work with you in those. And I look forward to the 4th or the 5th in the coming months and years. And on that note, I think we'll sign off. I just want to thank everyone for watching and listening. This has been Bernie Borges, CMO of Vengreso. If you'd like to learn more about anything we discuss here, just visit us at vengreso.com. And Steve Capozzi, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your insights.
Bernie, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.